Ecomen Mining and Labs has been operating since 1989, and in 35 years, they've quietly become one of India's most trusted names in mining and environmental consulting. Under 50 people, pan-India operations, clients like JSW Steel and NMDC, projects linked to the World Bank and India's Ministry of Environment. They do everything: mine planning, GIS mapping, forest clearances, regulatory approvals. And on top of that, run one of the most advanced environmental labs in the country. We're talking heavy metal detection, radioactive analysis, pesticide residue testing, advanced pollutant screening, high-end science that most labs won't touch. This isn't a big corporate. It's a lean, expert-driven firm that spent 3.5 decades making sure India's biggest industries operate without destroying what's around them.
Today we are here to introduce our CEO, Jubin George Joseph, sir, here.
Hello, it was good getting introduced to you, and I'm really excited that being second year students, you are doing something which during my college days was unimaginable. So looking forward to talking to you.
So how would you introduce yourself to our fans and about your company to our people who are watching this?
So basically my parents were both employed.
Yeah.
So I grew into that mindset, and I spent the first 25 years of my life working for somebody else, some other companies, but very good companies. Then somewhere down the line I realized that at some point of time, you run out of excitement working for somebody. Then you believe that you get bitten by what you call the entrepreneur bug. Then you realize that you need to go further in life. You need to do something on your own. You need to challenge yourself. And you need to figure out something that you want to contribute in your own way. So the only way you can do these things is by becoming an entrepreneur, which is exactly what I did.
Thank you, sir. You help mining industry and protect the environment at the same time. Isn't it an irony?
On the contrary, I would say it's a necessity.
Yeah.
It's a fact that because of consultants and companies like us, we ensure that there is always a balance between the two. Between productivity, between business, between progress, and between safeguarding the environment. The problem is we sometimes take an extreme approach. We believe in an all or nothing approach, but our approach is entirely different. And our approach is that we try to bring about a balance in such a manner that progress can happen without affecting the environment. We understand that the mining industry is classified as a very polluting industry, but there are ways to mine without affecting the environment. And also you can do it in a manner that later on there is something called a rehabilitation program, which can always be done. A renewal and rehabilitation program, by which to a large extent you can restore the environmental balance in a manner that does not harm the environment in a permanent manner. So I would say that the simple answer to your question is definitely no. Rather, we help industry ensure that the business is carried out in such a manner that does not cause any permanent damage to the environment. That is our role, and we do it very effectively.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answer. And we move forward to the next question. What's one habit of yours which your team finds annoying, but actually it works out?
So it's basically to do with the startup culture. So the startup culture defines that the entrepreneur or the guy sitting at the top has a hands-on approach to everything. So this can be irritating because every day you need to review progress, you need to review tasks assigned, you need to review the achievements versus the objectives. So basically a startup requires a hands-on approach. On the one hand, for employees, this may look like an irritation because you keep calling them, asking for feedback, asking them what happened. So the constant follow-up with regard to a hands-on approach from the guy sitting at the high table is always an irritation for those below. But the flip side is that enables the organization to be fleet-footed, in the sense that there is a daily follow-up of what is going on, And the hands-on approach ensures that you are in complete control of what you are doing and what you intend to do, and the progress of the organization vis-a-vis the objectives that the management has set.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answer. So, looking back to your history of building this company, so if I compare with today's generation and the previous generation, and if you were to start the same company in the same situation at the same technology and accuracy, so how will you start this company, and what is the difference which created back then in 1989 and currently? So how will you build this company? So you took 35 years of a long duration of time. So how long will it take for us or you to come create the same thing right now?
See, the simple answer to your question is how driven are you? When I started 35 years back, my career, at that time the core objective of a normal person's life was to ensure that at the first of every month you need a fixed amount to come into your bank to be able to sustain your lifestyle, your family, or whatever.
Yes.
So the core objective at that age, at that generation, at that time, was stability. Today, thanks to the efforts of our parents, in that most of us, probably, at least those who have become entrepreneurs, and again I wouldn't generalize, but I would say most people, they have a base. Their lives are not under threat, and they are not under a constant requirement to be stable in life. In the sense that most of them have homes inherited from their parents. Most of them have a healthy bank balance in terms of what they or the previous generation has achieved and put aside for them. So when it comes to the succeeding generation, you start at a stable level. Now that ensures that you can take risks disproportionate to your ability. That is exactly what I did. 35 years ago, I was not in a position to take any risk. My fundamental objective in life was to ensure that a fixed salary came by the first of every month, to ensure that my needs were met, and also to ensure that my life was stable. But for this generation, you don't need that. You already have that. And what is the worst case for you? I mean, you can still go back to apply in somewhere and you can still get a decent job, even if you fail. So the obstacles or the what I would say the benchmark is not to ensure stability. The benchmarks have shifted dramatically in a manner that enables you to take risk and enjoy a concomitant disproportionate benefit from that risk. That is a huge difference between the previous generation and this generation.
So it was a great insight, sir. And moving on to next question, I saw that you had done 500 plus projects in the period of 35 years. So which is that one project which you always think of, admiring and having that it has been so great to us and which has sustained our company throughout this year? That one single project, which was that? So
I would say it's for somebody like me, it's very difficult to pinpoint a particular project because each project is unique in itself, and each project created a huge difference in the lives of people. But I would say the one standout project we did was basically in a place called Doddaballapur. This is not closely related to my area of work, but at the same time it is fundamental to our testing business. So basically this is a project where we analyzed about 1,500 samples of sources of drinking water across Doddaballapur. The project came to us by chance because we were doing another project, and the commissioner of Doddaballapur CMC approached us and said, look, we are not able to classify sources of drinking as safe and unsafe. Can you help determine some benchmark level so that we can ensure that we are giving the people safe drinking water? So though this was not really aligned to our line of work, we still did it because we had the facility, we had the capability, we had the accreditation. So the difference we made in the lives of so many people was that we were able to tell the regulatory authority clearly what sources are safe and what are not safe. We were also able to determine that some of the water had long-term pollutants, which if the people had actually consumed, it would have had a drastic effect on their health. And these sources, thanks to our report, they could permanently ensure that it was closed. And besides that, when some of the parameters exceeded the limits of safety, but which could be treated, that ensured that that village had drinking water throughout the year. Because that was a perennial source, and through a simple treatment mechanism, it was ensured that the entire village got safe drinking water. So this is a project I really cherish because we made a difference to the lives of so many people through a small project. Didn't take too much of effort from our side. It didn't take too much of capital investments. It was something very basic. But each time when we went to draw a sample, there are these small RO units which are fitted across the village. Then they have their own borewell source. So the people of that village themselves could see that it made a difference to their lives because they were healthier, they were not falling sick so often. More importantly, they had a perennial source of drinking water to ensure that their basic needs were met. And most importantly, a perennial source was identified, and through a simple treatment process, without spending money on both the government side as well as the villagers' side, safe drinking water was ensured for the entire community. So looking at the smiles of the faces of those people, that is a sense of achievement which words can't describe.
So, creating impact is one of the biggest thing in your life. So it was really good to hear from you, sir. And moving on to the next question. Over the 35 years, you have gone through multiple government policies, government issues, and everything. So, which is that decision, or what is that thing which government didn't approve, or kind of unstabilized your company, or did something in that case? So, can you just address with that any policy issue? Or?
See, I thank you for putting this question.
Yes.
Okay, this is a crucial question which impacts every future entrepreneur. See, there is a clause in government projects which says that if you want to do a project for the government, you should have already done a similar project before. So these are called evaluation criteria or qualification criteria. Now this is a very dangerous limitation, because even if I have the capability to do that project well, even if I can do it at a much better cost to the government, at a much cheaper cost to the government, so where the government is spending 25 lakhs, I can actually do that project for half that amount, below half. That's a huge difference that can be made. This qualification criteria, based on previous experience, is a big challenge for any entrepreneur. Because just imagine that you are starting a company today. You have all the facility, you have very good technical manpower, you yourself are extremely experienced in that area thanks to your years of working in that similar area. You have better ideas to execute the project, but you simply can't get the project because you have not done that project before. So my question is, when you are a startup, how can you have a prior experience? You are starting, right? So that is an unreasonable criteria, but that is unfortunately part of every government tender, every government project, and every government contract. That a pre-qualification exists where if you want to do a project, you should have done it prior. No matter that you will do it better, no matter that you are equally qualified, no matter that your brilliant idea can do it in a manner that nobody else can, at a far better rate, in a far better manner, giving a far better output than what they have got ever before. So this, I think, is an impediment to new ideas and new concepts coming in. A simple example is this so-called garbage contract. It's not associated with me in any manner, but you can see the chaos and confusion that surrounds it. Okay, so there is no scope there for new ideas to come in. So the government is literally stuck with existing people who have a biased interest to ensure that the system creates an artificial barrier against new people coming in or new ideas coming in. And a country or a people cannot progress unless there are new ideas and new people coming in.
Yes.
And thereby is a fundamental dichotomy where you can't progress because new ideas can't come in, and you can't take up the project because you are a starter and you don't have prior experience, though you can do it better. So there is always a stagnation which comes in. So the fundamental concept of a civilization improving is being limited by an artificial impediment.
Yes. So, talking to experienced person and a startup guy, it adds a different perspective and kind of things.
Has Ecomen never been on the wrong side of a decision where you look back and think, oh, we got this one wrong?
Definitely, any company goes through this process
Yeah.
of having done something wrong and correcting it. And I can justify it with an example,
Yeah.
which happened very recently. See, we basically till now we have been playing it very safe,
Okay.
in the sense that our inflow always matches our outflow.
Yeah.
We never have had a situation where we overspent, or we never had a situation where we over-promised and under-delivered.
Yeah.
So till 6 months back, we were very comfortable financially, because we always erred on the side of caution. We were very cautious with our spending. We never spent unnecessarily. 6 months back, what happened is we got a very good project from the Gulf, the UAE, where they wanted to screen about 12,000 employees of Gulf Oil, of company, for the presence of heavy metals in their blood. Now, in terms of scale and in terms of operations, this was a massive project for us.
Okay.
First of all, it was a very prestigious customer. The customer was a $100 billion company.
Ah.
They never negotiated price with us.
Ah.
Whatever price we fixed, they just agreed to it.
Ah.
But considering that, we would have given them very good service for that, much better than what anybody else would have given them. So they saw value in our pricing.
Okay.
And to do that volume of sample, we couldn't do it with our existing capacity.
Okay.
So we had to invest in additional capex, which we went ahead and did. So which means that whatever we had invested in the last 5 years in capex,
Okay.
for this single project, we took a huge jump and invested an equivalent amount. So imagine what we have invested, the investment that we have done in capex for 5 years. Based on a single project, we invested it in 1 month to be able to do this project.
Ah.
Now, you know what happened after that. To our bad luck, the war erupted.
Ah.
The project is on hold. Now the clock is ticking for us.
Ah.
Okay. So this is a scene. Looking back, we should have played it carefully. In the sense that we should have. There were multiple options available to us to do it in a much safer manner. But then I think we kind of took a giant leap, taking for granted that, of course, we had a side contract, we had everything in place.
Yeah.
But this is a crazy situation which I don't think anybody in the world except Donald Trump foresaw. And unfortunately, even today it has put us in a predicament. Hopefully, we are praying that the situation stabilizes. But otherwise, this is a decision which now I regret, but hopefully tomorrow I will not have to do.
You said this war in between that, okay. What is the status of that project that you think?
See, basically, this is a situation which companies call force majeure. So, force majeure is a situation where nobody can do anything. We simply cannot foresee what is going to happen tomorrow. So, even the best astrologer cannot say what is going to happen. If this war prolongs, we're going to be badly hit. If it stops and business resumes, then it will be like a lottery for us.
How are you preparing for that?
Definitely, every day we are preparing. We are trying to cut costs elsewhere.
Yeah.
We are trying to find other projects. But definitely, with all of that, we would still be hit badly.
Yeah, that's a great confidence.
But we will not collapse. Definitely, nothing would happen to us on the surface. But we will not enjoy the kind of benefits that we would otherwise have enjoyed.
Like at the conference you have. Did you lose any of your client because of you refused to do something that they have asked?
In our field, yes.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to elaborate too much, but the environment industry is a very, in your words, a very dicey industry. Okay, because not everybody wants a genuine certificate.
Okay.
Right? For example, we did a project that assessed the pollution in a lake.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there were multiple clients for this project. Okay, so there was an NGO, there were government authorities, and then there was a company associated with it. So in this, there was one guy who was trying to influence us to give the result in a particular manner. He said that to tone it down a little bit.
Okay.
So he didn't want the reality to be projected. But then we refused to do it because we felt it was not, we are there for a reason and we don't do that kind of work.
Yeah.
So we actually refused to do the project. So the situation now is that it's not that we have lost the project, but the project has not gone through either.
You upheld the ethics all above. Does that make impact on Ecomen labs?
In the long run, the impact is always positive.
Yeah.
Because first of all, for an entrepreneur, one of the most important things is when you go to bed at night, you should sleep. Right? So thumb rule is because you need to focus on the business.
Yeah.
So never do anything which would deprive you of a full night's sleep,
Okay.
because that is dangerous and that could lead to your downfall.
How your Ecomen labs is different from other?
Very good question. So if you look, we are one of the few labs, I don't think few, I think we are the only lab
Yeah.
which actually hires interns from the computer science background.
Okay.
Okay, the reason for that is because we are trying to bring technology into testing. So how do we do that? There was a time even now where 90% of lab staff are all from a chemistry background or from a medical background
Yes.
or from a health sciences background. Ours is a 50-50. Only 50% of our staff are from a chemical or chemistry background. The other 50% are actually from AI or computer science background, because we are probably the only lab which has integrated effectively and efficiently AI into our processes. How did we do that? A lot of lab processes are manual, like calculations, like data entry. So now we have eliminated, there is no paper in our lab. If you ask me for a piece of paper, it's very difficult for me to get it. So all systems have been automated in a manner that human interference or human intervention is the barest minimum. And second is that we are different from other labs in the kind of data we give customers. We give them AI-enabled data. Okay, so for example, if the commissioner in Doddaballapur wanted to see what is the water quality of an RO plant which is located on Rajaram Street in 16th A Cross, right? So he can go to the map, he can go and click on 16th A Cross. In that area, he will get the entire history of that water source.
Yes.
How it has changed, what was it in the beginning, what is it in the end, during rainy season, how was it, during dry season, how was it, which are the parameters which went above the limits. All this comes to him in a dashboard kind of thing. So he can take decisions quickly. Right? So to answer to your question is, we are one of the few labs which have brought in AI into our DNA. So we are today less of core testing and more of technology intensive lab.
Okay. You are evolving with the technology.
India has a rich mineral mining deposit process, but it has a very chaotic approval process. So where do you think the system actually fails, or who isn't addressing it?
See, I would not call the system a failure. I would call it a work in progress, which any government or any country goes through. Okay, so we are also going through that process, and good or bad, the process is painful. You simply don't have a choice, because in real world there is no such thing as a perfect scenario. There is only an ideal scenario. So I think the challenge for all of us is how we can improve the system, how we can contribute to make the system beneficial for the people, because that is what any system is designed to do. And more importantly, how you can take out biases and how you can remove discretion Right? The moment you bring in discretion, where all power is with one person, he can decide if mining is permitted there or not. It doesn't matter what the facts on the table are. Right? So when you bring in discretion, there is always chaos. So if you don't want chaos, you need to take out discretion. It's as simple as that.
So has Ecomen Labs ever tried to grow quickly, and have you ever pulled off from that decision?
Yeah, so the best example is what I gave you 15 minutes back. Right? So we got this project from the Gulf. It was the first time that we were doing a scale-up project like that. We didn't factor in that there could be challenges to it. We only looked at the positive sides. We didn't factor in the risk to the extent that we could have factored in. So we made the jump, which now we regret, because there was more safer ways to do it. We could have outsourced some part of it. We could have hired machines instead of buying them out. We could not have taken that kind of people. We could have done the project in shifts instead of taking additional staff. Now we've taken staff. We can't. It's inhuman to terminate all the people that you took.
Yes.
So we are. It's a difficult situation, but we have to live through it.
Yes, sir. So, as you know, there is a wave of entrepreneurship in entire India right now. So, what is that one thing you would like to address young entrepreneurs who are just fear to enter into the market? Might be their idea or might be the funds. How do you what is the one thing you would like to say them?
See, there's no one thing, okay, but there are three fundamental things which any new entrepreneur should remember. Okay. First is that it's not just enough to have a great idea. Most people think, oh, I have this fantastic idea, so tomorrow let me resign and start my own company.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. It's a very dangerous thing to do. Right? The fact that you have a great idea doesn't translate into a successful idea. Right? So then what? Right? I have a great idea. What should I do? Okay, should I just sit tight? So the simple answer to the question is, you have a great idea. You need to figure out what is the best way to execute the idea, which very few people think about. Okay, so they're just thinking about how to execute the idea itself. They're not thinking in terms of how to translate that idea into a business plan. And a business plan is not just about idea. It's about finance, it's about marketing, and it's about how you differentiate your product or service from an existing product or service which is already in the market. That is why most businesses collapse. Because people think that entrepreneurship and successful business is just about having a great idea. That's the completely wrong perception. Everybody has great ideas, but not all great ideas translate into good business.
Alright. So, one last question, sir. Why the name Ecomen?
So this is a long story, but in one line, it's because everything we do is associated with the ecology and the environment. You know? So it's as simple as that.
Got it.
It was a great conversation, sir. So, moving on, we have covered all the topics for our interview. We'll go for the future of the company. So, what does the next generation of this company stand or hold?
The next generation or the future for us, like I started saying, is how quickly we can blend technology into our services or products. See, in today's, it's not even in future, I would say even today. Today, people are not just happy with you doing something that is routine. To give you a very simple example, right? We are into testing as part of one of the sectors. If somebody brings me a water sample, right, from your house, from some house, somebody has just put a water filter. So they want to check if the water is good or bad. Now they're not from a science background, may not be from a science background, they don't understand chemistry. They want to know, is the water good, is it drinkable or not. So they bring a water sample and get it to our lab. Earlier, we used to test that water and give a report. Okay. So the report will say pH is so much, hardness is so much, chloride, sulfate, metals, heavy metals, toxins. Also the left hand side will have all the parameters, right hand side will have the results, and maybe there will be one more column which gives you the limits. Right? So this is what industry or this is what testing service used to be till yesterday. But today you do that, there are multiple people doing that. Right? So tomorrow it's all about how you can use technology to tell the customer a story. And a story in a manner which the customer can understand. Right? Just giving him a certificate is not going to help him. So there are three things which the customer would want to know tomorrow. A, he wants an overall picture of the water, which means that you have to grade it. Right? Which only you have to bring in technology. Based on the parameters, you have to grade the water as good, average, usable, not usable. Classify it as grade. So that is an additional service that you have to provide to the customer based on technology. Right? So you have to go one step ahead. The second part is you need to tell that customer what kind of technology can be used to make the water good. It's not just about giving him a certificate saying good or bad. It's like a doctor, who looks at you and tells you that you are sick.
Yeah.
The patient knows he's sick, right? That's why he's gone to a doctor. So he wants a cure. So any industry is going to be like this tomorrow. Okay, people are not just happy with the traditional or classical approach. They want something more and more and more. So if you want to survive tomorrow, you have to keep improvising, and for the same service, you need to do it better, you need to do it faster. In simple, short words, you have to give them more value for the same amount of money. And how you create that value, usually it is through technology, but it's up to the individual companies to figure out. But value is the key. Right? Why do you go for an iPhone today? It's not that it is cheap, right? But people are still paying money and still buying an iPhone. Why? Because it gives you something that is more than what you expect, or more than what you anticipate, or more than what you expect in a phone. You all know that when we started using mobile phones, it was just talking to two people talking to each other. Imagine if companies still made phones that just talk to each other. Right? Even I don't see even a poor man holding a simple talk to each other phone. Right? Even that guy wants for the same amount of money, he wants a phone with additional capability. That is what is going to be tomorrow. Right? It's any business, for it to survive, you need to keep giving the customer more and more and more.
Right. Great answer. So actually I wanted to ask one more question about the technology right now, AI, drones, satellite data and all, but you already answered that in the last thing. So would you like to add it? Is it intimidating or is it very helpful?
I would say it's a little of both. Right. So for example, we are a company which has nothing to do with let's say computers or software or technology. Primarily our business is testing or mining, whatever the case may be, right? So when you talk about the influence of technology on our business, there is always a scare point, right? Because it's not familiar territory for you. So on the one hand, there will always be an inhibition, but on the other hand, if you are able to imbibe that inhibition into your process, then it becomes a differentiator. Right. So when you bring in technology into your business, when you adapt and adopt technology into your business, then you go from fear to anticipation, because there are a lot of things that you can do which you would otherwise not be able to do.
Right.
So that is the differentiator. So use the fear as a challenge to do better, to do faster, and to give the customer more value. Coming back to the previous answer, this is one of the ways by which you can become a better company.
So adapting is the only choice.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you became a teen right now with all the experience and knowledge, would you open a company in this field or would you choose another field?
Look, the thumb rule of any entrepreneurship, okay, is that you need to be in a field in which you are the king. Now this is a field in which I am a king, because I know it inside out. I've been in it for so many years. So if you put me back in time with a time machine and I have to start all over again, without the slightest doubt, it would be in the same area.
Alright. So for every person there's a go-to story, an amazing story, a crazy story. So what's your go-to story?
So I think the biggest go-to story for me is that I chose chemistry at a time when people were choosing medical and engineering. And almost everybody was against my decision because my marks enabled me to get into either engineering or I could have chosen either of those fields because my marks was like that. But I made a conscious choice. I liked chemistry from when I was in the first standard. For some reason, I was fascinated by chemical sciences. So I made a conscious decision to take chemistry as my core subject. Everybody told me I would fail, right? But if I look back today at where I am compared to where this is not to degrade anybody, but I'm not behind anybody else who my classmates, my peers, or anybody else. So for me, I think the go-to story would be that despite everybody telling me that I made the wrong choice, I stuck to my beliefs. I never compromised on what I thought was going to be my destiny. I always believed in my destiny, and I always believed that that was my future. And by the grace of God, I was not wrong.
It does feel good when you're right.
Extremely. More particularly when the whole world was against you.
Yeah,
you could imagine, right? At my time, when you say you had to be an engineer and a doctor. Now imagine a guy who could have taken either of those two, but he chose not to take those two. So you are under constant watch. People are continuously watching to evaluate and come back and throw stones at you and say, look at this. If you had listened to me and done this, then look where you are and where you could have. So you need to live through it.
Correct.
And the good part is to look at their faces, but it's bad to rub. I don't rub it in. But every time I look at their faces, I know that in their mind and in my mind, it's the same question that's coming.
You can rub it on the face. You deserve, actually.
But that's not who I am.
Correct. Right. Yeah, that was the questions we had. Thank you very much for the interview. So it was a wonderful conversation. We didn't think it would be so insightful also. Would you tell anything to our audience, to our students?
Just one thing, right? Always believe in yourself. Right? No matter what people tell you, people are not always right. Okay? So the important thing for you is clarity of thought for yourself. The first step to success is being assured of yourself, of who you are and what you want to be. So first convince yourself before you try to convince the world. And most importantly, don't be influenced by what the world thinks of you. If you are convinced of the way forward and you are convinced of a particular path, as long as that path is not detrimental to yourself, right? Just believe in yourself. That's it.
Right. It was great words. Thank you very much for the interview. Suggestions for us throughout the interview or anything in general.
So, I think you guys did your homework very well, and you came prepared with the questions. A very good thing. It was not a random, dissociated discussion, which would have been honestly very
Boring.
put-offing and boring if there ever was such a word. So I think it is very good that you came prepared. You filtered down the questions, and you were clear about what answers you wanted with respect to what questions you asked. So I would say that, like you asked me, if I were to ask you guys to do this again, I would not change anything. Always go prepared. Doesn't matter who was there at the other side. Do your homework well, and I'm really happy that you guys did your homework before coming here. And I didn't have to explain about the company or about who I am or what I am into.
Right.
So that's made this whole exercise interesting, meaningful, and worth it.
Thank you very much. One more thing before the interview is over. Could we have the consent to upload this on YouTube and other social media platforms?
Look, as long as you don't break the law,
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah. Take your signal and hello guys. You are louder. Be louder. ಕೆಳಗಡೆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂಥರ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಡಬಲ್ ಚಿಕ್ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ. So the main contributor of editing and stuff was done by Pojit. So these are the connections, guys. One of our team member is missing. We'll be right back. So that guy will be. Stay tuned. There comes our hero. Yay!